So hello everybody, you're very welcome back to Law Hero. My name is Jen and I make videos about the law. And today we're talking about FE1 Property Law and our 2025 tips. And I'm going to be looking at the March and October 2024 papers, which I've used to update my notes, which are available on lawhero.eu. So my first tip would be, of course, around adverse possession. It comes up every single year, basically every single year, at least once in a year. So learn the key elements like possession, intention to exclude others, cases like Murphy v. Murphy, Fee v. Leamy, and clarify the importance of demonstrating clear, continuous control over the land for 12 years in order to benefit from adverse possession. The second one would be co-ownership. Co-ownership is guaranteed, I would say. Hang my hat on that. Be able to very, very clearly differentiate between joint tenancy and tenancy in common. You would be surprised the amount of people I ask who don't know the difference between them. Know what the four unities are in joint tenancy and how it can be severed and become a TIC, and use cases like Cawley v. Lillis for kind of the practical side of severing a joint tenancy. For easements, it does come up a fair bit, doesn't come up every year, but like know the real and borough park criteria, dominant serving tenement, accommodation, separate ownership and certainty, and then focus on the statutory reforms that came from the LCLRA. Family home protection does come up every year. It's always kind of like a problem question, and it's also quite messy question to answer, but very rewarding. So understand the 1976 Act and how the 2010 Act changed certain elements of that, and Section 3's emphasis on spousal consent in cases like BOI v. Smith. And we're going to talk about that when it comes to exam papers. Mortgages. People hate this question, but it is getting asked more and more. And I would say, like, if you have any time to learn an extra topic, that's probably a good one, because the LCLRA is so, definitive around mortgages, and it's quite an easy question, especially when it comes to like possession for sale and possession and sale. And I would say, yeah, definitely a question that people avoid, and I don't really understand why. Landlord and tenant law, so it doesn't always come up. So obviously there's commercial and residential. It doesn't always come up. If you are going to do it, be prepared on the commercial side to understand like the different clauses in a lease, restrictive covenants, right of renewal under the 1980 Act. And then when it comes to like the residential tenancy law, that is quite dense. The 2004 Act is quite dense, and I can see why people would avoid it, because there's a lot of learning in it, like especially around the notices and the recent nuances. But yeah, if you're going to do it well, is basically what I'm saying to you, even though it's not asked that much. Finding is always a handy one. It basically is asked every year, so like know the distinction between an ordinary finding and a treasure trove is basically the only advice I would give you. You're always going to get 2 questions on succession. You're always going to be asked around I would say you're always going to be asked around like your legal right share, section 111, and all the case law that comes with it. And the examiner is asking more questions around intestacy. So yeah, I think that definitely needs to be looked at more. Okay, so then when it comes to the exam papers, let's see what the examiner said. I believe it's Ashling Parks from UCC. So, mix of questions. The examiner actually makes a point here where a question contained multiple parts, each part carried equal marks. Unfortunately, this caught a few candidates out in the joint tenancy question and the second succession question. It is much appreciated when candidates underline or highlight case law to which they refer. There is no need to spend time rewriting the facts of the question in the answer. Hallelujah. Okay, so question 1 was a straightforward question on adverse possession. Some mistook it for proprietary estoppel. That's probably another area you should look at. So yeah, we talked about an indication that some that you are in possession, it is adverse, discontinued or dispossession, and all of that. Question 2 is an essay question around finding. I'm not going to go into that. Question 3 was a problem question around section 117 and the legal right share. And section 77 and 78 around witnessing and capacity and all of that. You have to look at the facts of the case very clearly to answer that. Question 4 was 3 parts. So the first one was around seems to be the 4 unities and this is a notes question. 4 unities and joint tenancy, profit upfront, and then the rights and responsibilities of joint tenants as co-owners. Question 5, she's saying, was the least popular, and of course it was mortgages. And I think I've done it very good in my ebook to make it very straightforward. But I think one thing that messes people up is we used to call it the gun lacuna, which was a case from 2011 that actually went into legislation in 2013 with the Land Conveyancing Law Reform Act 2013. You don't really need to know the technical parts of it, but it's basically, it was an anomaly or a mistake in the legislation around the applicability of the 1964 Act, Registration Title Act, and then the Conveyancing Act. And I think a lot of people, don't really understand that, and I think that's why people avoid it, but it's actually very, very straightforward. And basically the law was cleared up after that case, so the lacuna's gone now. Question 6 was an essay question around easement. Question 7 was problem question around the Family Home Protection Act. She's saying that this was the second least popular question. So again, I don't understand why people would avoid mortgages and family home protection, because they're so straightforward. But I appreciate maybe you didn't do it at undergrad and it's not so familiar to you. And then the final question was the second question on succession. The first one was around the construction or interpretation of wills in section 90, and then the second part was around intestacy. And then in October 2024, the first question was around section 117, problem question. The second question was how did the LCLRA, why did it leave adverse possession untouched? So that's kind of the law on adverse possession needs reforming. It's just a variant on that question that it's been asked so many times, and it's kind of your fault if you haven't prepared that, because it's just she's asked it so many times. Question 3 then was Jack and Jill moved into their new house, so we automatically think family home protection, but they're unmarried and they have children, so we think cohabitants. Question 4 then was the admissibility of extrinsic evidence, so that's a succession essay question. Question 5 then was finding, problem question. Question 6 was an essay on contractual licenses. I don't do licenses. Question 7 then was 4 colleagues bought a house together, so that's more than likely co-ownership. And then question 8 was a notes question around rights of residents, estoppel licenses, and the influence of equity in Irish law. So again, that was fine. I probably I would say for me personally, everything other than questions around licenses, so 6 and 8, would have been fine. So that would have left me with 6 questions, and if I were to do 5 questions, I probably would have left out the adverse possession question.